What if we want to have a nice rotation going on, a nice animated rotation of models that we've generated so that we can have them rotating around forever and ever, on our website or on, YouTube channel or, ArtStation, that sort of thing, to be able to show off our work. Well, we can do it a couple of different ways. But the easiest one for this sort of thing is to set ourselves up with a camera and whatnot that is going to get us what we want. So, I'm just going to go in this case, I'm going to make my camera just with Control C, and it'll build me a physical camera. I'm going to hit P again, and we can see that we've got that camera in there. So how do I get that rotating around? You got two choices. One, you could rotate your entire set or rotate the camera. Camera's pretty easy to do, but how do you get it going around in a nice smooth way so that as it's rotating, it's not doing, and you're seeing things on kind of weird angles and stuff, right? So the easiest way to do that is go and make a circle. So I'm going to make a circle. I'm just going to make sure I turn off the rendering. Looks like I've had rendering on before. So I've got a circle there. I'm just going to push the radius out a bit, and I'm going to center that just off to the bag itself. So I just use the align tool that's up here, Alt A. I'm going to align it up to it, and I'm going to say align it to the center. So take the current object and align it to the center of the target. And I had rotation on there. You probably didn't need to. You probably don't want it at all. So there's a circle going around, and it's centered to the bag. So now let's get the camera following that loop. Okay, so it would be best probably to set your default in and out tangent down here in the lower right to linear. Now we could go and change it to linear after the fact, but it's easier obviously to set it linear. Guess what? There's no difference between Max and Maya. All of the settings are there. All of the things you can do in Maya, you can do in Max, okay? It's not hard to find them. I'm going to take just the camera, okay, selected, so just it. I'm going to go to Animation, Constraints, Path Constraint, and I'm going to go in and click on that path. You'll notice it's actually keyed it at the first and last frame, and if we move that around, look at the camera goes ripping around, okay? Now, one of the things, it looks like this is also being animated currently. I must have linked it. Oh, it's linked up to a little control object there. Another way to do it, by the way, that's what I was going to show. And so I actually want this to start in the front. So we can do that and get it to start in the front. So if I just go and rotate this, and I'm going to hit my angle snap, and I'm going to rotate it right to the front 90 degrees, let's say. And so check that. See, that's what I'm looking at. Now, how are we rendering this? We want our safe frames on and know that we've got it in safe. Now, frankly, those safe frames are what I want for final renders. But if you're just putting up something on your LinkedIn, or you want to put something up on your ArtStation or whatever, it'd be better if it was kind of framed more like the backpack is. So I'm going to hit F10, open up my settings here. Okay, I'm moving around the camera, and I shouldn't be. There we go. So you can see it kind of going back off again. I'm going to go top, and I'm going to make sure that is realigned to there. Yes, it is. And that the camera hasn't been moved. No, it hasn't. So in here, what I want to do is I want to set that up so that it's got better framing. Well, I'm going to get out of the HD TV, maybe 800 wide by 900. I decided to try when I did this. Because we don't necessarily need it big. And now let's see what that looks like when we scrub that. Is it moving in place? And you can see it's kind of moving from one side to the other. The center of that bag may not be the best solution, okay? So we can see that it's not perfect. Just going to go to the top view, and I've got the circle pick. But part of the reason that's happening is look where the actual target of the camera is. It's over here somewhere. So what I want to do is just pick the camera, right click, select target, and let's align that target up to this circle so it's in the middle. So Alt A, pick my circle. And I'm even going to use the align orientation here, and I could say pivot at this point now. So if I go back to camera and do that, you'll notice that it's rotating just beautifully. Okay, look at that. It's perfect in the middle where I might want it. Okay, it's also cool if I select the circle here and move it up and down, you can see I could change the angle and it is perfect still going around. Now this timeline might be rather short and you might want to increase or decrease it. So that's going to be a matter of grabbing the camera. I'm just going to go back to the top view, and you're going to have to change your timeline length if you wanted to slow it down. So we're going to have to move that key. And if we wanted to 200 frames, we could go into the settings here, which is right here, time configuration, and change our in and outs and everything else here. But the easy hotkeys is we've got Control Alt down, and we have left mouse button. Notice it's changing the start time. We have right mouse button, changing the end time. Middle mouse button slides the time. So I can just go, to the, right mouse button, grab that key for the camera and take it out to the end. Now, in fact, you actually want it one more frame. And the reason you want it one more frame, if you want this animation to cycle perfectly and be playing on repeat, you don't want the first and last frame to be the same position, okay? We want it to actually loop around to, just before it's about to start again, and it pops back to the beginning and goes. So there's a couple hundred frames, and we're good to go. So I can put that in there, and that will now loop around, okay, and spin around on our path. And I can set how high I want that path. I could even go in and move the target up and down, but you only want to move the target directly up and down, okay? Don't want to do anything else with it. Now rendering, we can render it in two ways. One is just say active time segment at the top here, 0 to 200. So our active timeline down here, you could give it a specific range time. You can give it specific frame numbers, by the way, and then ranges of frame numbers if you want to render. Okay, to our size, we roll on down, we say save it out to, and we're going to save it out to something. Now, I'm going to suggest you don't render to AVIs and whatnot. I'm going to suggest you render to something like a JPEG sequence or a PNG sequence. The reason being for that is that if it crashes halfway through, the JPEG won't be lost, whereas the AVI or the MOV will be lost because it has to write that one file. So you're always safer to do it to a JPEG or something, and then compile that in Premiere Pro or After Effects or a million other applications that'll take that image sequence and turn it into the MOV for you, okay, safely. So going out to my project's render output, beautiful. I'm going to give it a name. Model rotation, okay, and it's going to create numbered files, okay. So I'm going to say, yeah, I want it to be 95%, sounds good, and now it's going to go ahead and render that, and I can render it, sit back and wait, and it'll render out that sequence, and I'll have essentially 200 JPEG files, all sequenced with numbers that'll load as a sequence into any decent editor, okay? The other way is to go in and actually do a preview render. So this create preview animation, under the little plus sign thing, you can go down, or Shift V. And so we can say high quality. We want that high quality viewport. Image quality, I would crank this up, let's go 80. And what this is going to do is it's going to sort of do more passes over the viewport each time to make sure that it comes out looking really good. You can force the shading type to whatever you want, and it's going to render it out to that file type. Again, I would tend to lean towards going to a JPEG and then converting it. In this case, I just find that the default built-in ones just got really shitty compression on them. And I'm much better off just going to a JPEG or something and then compiling it in some other piece of software that's got better compression methods and everything. So I can go ahead and save that. This is going into the previews, and I'm going to say preview, and I'm going to drop that down, and then you can hit go. And what it's going to do is it's going to sit there and chug away and grab every frame that you've got it and try and get your lighting to look decent. Now you might want to up your lighting settings in the viewport and everything, play around with those, and get it to look nice. So I'm not going to let that keep going. I'm just going to hit cancel, And so if you're wondering what that looks like, there's our previews folder. Here's our animation sequence happening. And you can see it's rotating around that sequence now. And it's going to sit there and chew on that. Okay. So lighting it up nicely and everything would be good. You can see my background looks like hell. Let's fix that, you know. So I'd probably want to go in and hide this ground plane, or I want all that HDRI showing, right? You know, how do I make this look good and clean is the big trick, right? So there you go, guys. That's a quick way of doing model rotations that are nice and perfect, and you can display them that way.